Hello and welcome to the monthly podcast supported by Patreon. The Patreon supporters are the ones that allow us to make this podcast every month. So thank you, Patreon supporters. And if you want to become a Patreon supporter and help us make more of these podcasts, there's a link in the description. Just click that link.
Yeah, check it out.
Yeah.
This is going to be Inside Labor with Inside Games. Every month we have a different title. Because I guess we're going to be talking about unionization right off the top.
I was going to make a joke about
no.
childbirth.
Oh, okay. Let's roll it back then. 9 months? Wait, childbirth joke.
Labor.
Oh!
Don't worry about it. Never mind. So just in the news, this podcast will air after this news is already broken, but basically the first union of video game workers has been established at Raven, right? Mm-hmm. Raven QA. And they just put together the first union, which is fantastic. Both Lawrence and I are very much in support of that. You did a report recently with them about their strike and their walkout and their layoffs and all that other stuff. And I know I would assume you're excited about this.
Yeah, I mean that was months ago. Yeah. It's been a while. But I got to talk to them when they went on strike when they first started. It was the first organized labor action, really. I mean there had been walkouts and stuff before, but yeah. Mm-hmm. Very cool group. It was a weird situation because initially they were striking because they just wanted their friends rehired. It seemed like an arbitrary series of layoffs. And I guess there was just never any response or follow-up to that. So unfortunately, I guess the people who were laid off remain laid off. I actually need to follow up with them and also extend my thanks or my gratitude. Gratitude is the one. Congrats. That's the one. Yeah. Congratulations to the whole group. But it's good news for sure.
It is,
especially for QA. My God, they just get ground up. I mean, Stephanie used to be in QA back at THQ. She has a lot of stories about how just truly shitty of a job that is. It's one of those so many people are lined up to do it that they get away with treating you like garbage.
I almost got a QA. I got a QA job at EA. Never took it, but that was always the stories that I heard. Was just everyone's like, you don't want QA at EA. They're going to destroy you. And I was always like, oh no. So I never took the job.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. So
was that when you had a computer science degree?
That was right out of college, and I was I had gotten that job, and I was kind of got scared away because of those stories. So it's great. I mean, hopefully the union will help them with normal hours and correct pay and stuff like that, like a union should. So
it's only good for workers, which is great, and one would wring their hands about the ability to produce video games in an economical and timely fashion. That's always the counterpoint to unions, right? Because we need to make more mousetraps, but there's a lot of video games and they make so much money. There's really no argument, is there?
So without going too much into the political side of this, or I guess it's not really political. This is just financial. It is widely recorded that every CEO makes 100,000 times the workers, the very bottom workers of their company does, and I don't necessarily think that that's fair. I think most people would agree with me. There might be a few people that are being like, no, CEOs are paid fairly, but I'm not sure about that one. Regardless, that's why I'm happy about unions. Now, a lot of people could say, again, I'll take the other side and say, oh, well, unions could be corrupt, et cetera, et cetera. I don't think when a union is first established that they are. I think a union is first established, there's a bunch of people with ideals that want to hit those ideals. And I think it's going to be great for Raven and honestly for the industry as these sort of pop up in different larger companies, because then everyone will get the thing that they deserve, which is fair pay and fair hours. And again, if we can take away a little money from the CEOs, great.
Yeah,
that's fucking great. They're sitting on hundreds of millions of dollars, so why not give the QA workers an extra million? So just to get that out of the way, that's the way I feel about it. I assume you also feel that same way about it.
Yeah, I mean,
pretty easy to feel that way.
Even if unions are corrupt, so what? Is it better to give it all to one corrupt executive?
Again, this is, and I'm not even playing devil's advocate. It's just things that I've heard that I'm always like,
I see what you mean.
Yeah, kind of sort of make that face and sound and be like, why are you saying this?
I can see why certain things feel wrong on the surface.
Sure,
right?
Sure. Yeah.
Like, oh, the union, they're not really working to protect the employee, they're just trying to collect their dues and do nothing.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? Then it's just like a boss. So nothing's really changed, has it?
That's exactly right.
I don't know.
Exactly right.
Yeah. Granted, I've never been a part of a union.
Yeah, me either. Well, maybe at times I've done things for SAG, but it's not. I've never been like, I was taking monthly jobs from a union or anything like that.
Yeah, I've never worked at the docks or anything like that. So I should be clear about the things I don't know, and I really don't know a whole lot about the climate of working with union shops or about union stuff. I mean, the nature of work we do, I think, has been explicitly anti-union for a long time.
100%, yeah. 100%.
Which is why I am very pro-union just from the sound of it. Anything is probably better than that.
That's true. I agree.
Yeah. So I'm all about collective action. I'm all about using leverage, because Bruce, just kind of to what I was alluding to before, certain things can feel weird on the surface, but the ultimate weirdness should be in just the massive disparity of pay. CEOs may work harder than they may be more.
They totally do.
But do they work 450 times harder? Is
No.
their work worth 450 times as much?
I mean,
1,000 times as much?
I would say even the greatest CEOs in the world, no. I think that it is like, I'll give all the credit to Bezos's and the Bill Gates and all these people that have done amazing things for industries and people and jobs and our lives and things like that. But also, they don't need the billions. Just a little bit. Just give us a little. That's kind of what I get at. I'm not saying, hey, let's redistribute the wealth. Communism. I'm not saying that either. I'm saying just a little.
Well, this is the ultimate free market, isn't it?
It is.
Right?
Yeah.
It's workers using their power in the market for their benefit, which is what everyone should be doing.
Absolutely.
That's when the best situation arises. But yeah, I agree, though. There is a weird culture of people that like to deify individuals, like to believe in the great people, like to believe that, Elon Musk will save the earth. I guess I can understand that, especially if you're super immersed into superhero culture, that individualism might be like making you wish that there were more God Kings among us. They don't exist.
They don't.
Bobby Kotick has shit his pants at some point in his life. Maybe he did it right now.
That's true.
I'm just throwing that out there. Does that man really deserve billions and billions of dollars?
No.
Especially when he, in all likelihood, was fully aware and covered up a bunch of sexual abuse bullshit?
Absolutely not. No.
So no, get the money. Get it back.
Yeah, I know. That's true.
There's so much there. Damn.
Yep.
This is a complete mostly non sequitur, but when people bring up that games should be more expensive because they haven't risen in price at all, I don't know. The ultimate argument to that is games still make billions of dollars, so they're not really like the margin is fine.
Yeah,
and there's so much money there that problems of labor shouldn't really be an issue.
Well, it's interesting that you say that about like, hey, games should be more expensive, because I would imagine most people say that because then they're hoping that if games are more expensive, that we're sending our money to the devs and that the people like QA and the producers and things like that get to make more money. That's not the case.
That's a good point, yeah.
And this is the case. The unionization, we're looking at an article of the people that have unionized at Raven. This is the case. They are going to get more money and more time with their families because of a union. And so to me, that's a better step than raising the price of a game, because raising the price of a game, that money is just going to go directly to the 50 executives that are already millionaires, 100 billionaires. So I'm excited. I'm excited for this, and I'm excited to see what it turns into for the rest of the industry. Then I think the next part of this discussion that you brought up, and it's a fantastic point, which was, well, what is this going to do for video games? How is this going to delay our precious video games?
Yeah, I mean, probably, maybe. I don't know. Maybe I think the idealist approach is that you can give everybody good wages and good hours and still produce quality work at the same rate. And I guess if you wanted to be really theoretic about it, you could say, okay, if a certain dev house switches to union, especially if they're working on a service title like Raven, then their updates take longer to come out. Fortnite doesn't keep everybody because it's not updating every month. And then they go and spend their money elsewhere. The company has to lay people off. And then because of the union, everyone loses their jobs. I guess.
I don't know that.
I don't think that's the case either. I don't think that's how it'll turn out, but maybe.
it's. I think this is something we've also talked about in the context of like unionization and crunch and things like that. Is usually whether or not it's a television, movie, game, any production really. There seems to be some sort of crunch. That's just sort of what happens. And it's so rare to avoid crunch, like leading up to the release of something, especially a really large game, movie, television show that takes years to make. And I promise you, I'm not saying that it's acceptable. I'm just saying that that's what it is. Because I've been in production for 20 years. I've seen it happen over and over and over. And if you ask anybody in the industry, there's always a measure of crunch. But hopefully the unions will cut that down a little bit, pay them for their crunch. That's the most important part, in my opinion. If you're going to work overtime and you want to work overtime, you get paid for it.
Yeah.
Rather than, put in extra time so that you can make Kotick more rich. But there's a kind of always a measure of that in these productions. So with that said, if a union cuts down on the amount of hours that people are in video game development, are we going to have to worry about COD being yearly, or is it going to be every other year now? And is that a bad thing?
As a consumer, I don't care. I have a backlog of COD games.
Yeah.
I used to like playing through the campaigns. It was like a thing. Yeah. And then I think starting with Black Ops 2, I just kind of was like, I'll do that eventually. And then it just kind of started stacking up. Mm-hmm. So I'm not starving. Is anyone starving for more video games right now? Purely as a consumer?
No. I could flat out say no. Because on Steam, there's a new video game that comes out on Steam every day that has 50,000 concurrent players. Yeah. Every single day.
And even presuming that you don't have a lot of disposable income, there's still some very, very good free-to-play games out there. So there's something to play. It seems like this could be a misattribution, but I feel like the people who do want more content faster, they're either like super players, they just consume everything in a given game and they can't ever get enough, which that's a good and a bad problem to have. But then there's also just people who exist in the sphere of games discourse and they just like rooting for their team.
Sure.
And more updates give them more ammunition to like make fun of other people with.
But we don't want real humans suffering because of those people that are just rooting for their team.
Yeah, that's hopefully the brainworms don't infect across when people read too many Reddit threads and they think that's everything.
Yeah.
And then apart from that, it's I imagine there is some internal push because if you've been working on a thing for 3 or 4 years, you really want to get it out into the world. It's
sure.
like passing a kidney stone or something like that.
Yeah.
That's not a very good analogy, but you're really excited for people to get to play the thing and have fun with it. And you want to read people's comments like, oh, I love this part. And you're like, I worked on that part.
Yeah.
So I can see why there'd be momentum from inside of a studio or inside of a team to get something done or to push it out. But apart from that, you're just hitting, like most game dates are settled on either holidays at the end of the year or the wrap of fiscal in March. Mm-hmm. So it's corporate financial calendars that determine the release of this stuff. And it's not game completeness, really.
No. Yeah, and I was just going to say, not to interrupt, but that determines, like, the executives determine that release date, meaning people are crunching to get to that date.
Yeah, so they're doing it for the corporate agenda,
right? Yeah.
Not for their own fulfillment.
Yeah.
So I guess I was going back to the idea that sometimes Crunchism can happen, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a destructive thing. But I think in games and with like a lot of commercial art, crunch is done to make money.
Oh yeah.
So people ought to share in that money.
Correct.
That's kind of where it comes down to.
Yeah. I think you've told me that you've heard of developers that have, if there's a crunch to a release, but then they release it, they get a bonus on how the game does. Mm-hmm. Which is cool. That's really cool. I think that's neat. And that would be, if I were a game dev or working on a production or whatever, that was exactly what I would want. It was, there have been many times that I have crunched for something that I didn't share in its success. Like it was like we got it out and it did well. I still got my paycheck, but it wasn't like I got a higher paycheck.
Yeah.
So I've done that a bunch of times. I'm not saying it's right. It's just something that exists. And hopefully, as people unionize and we sort of call attention to the workers' conditions, it happens less, ideally. And I don't know that we'll find anybody out there that is going to be like, COD needs to be yearly. Like, I don't necessarily, I think if it were every other year, most consumers would be like, that's great. Then I don't have to worry about COD every year. Like I'll just buy it every other year. It's like when Assassin's Creed, everybody was like, breathed a sigh of relief when Assassin's Creed decided to not be yearly. That said, see, this is, and I don't want to generalize, but I will. There are 50 executives at Activision Blizzard that are like, if we don't release a game every year, I'm not going to make another $100 million. We need to release a game every year. And if that trickles down to their workers, if they're like worried about keeping people employed, then there's a different discussion there. There's a different discussion of the CEOs and the executives should be honest with their workers and be like, hey, if we don't release yearly, then we're going to have to lay people off. And it's not because, we're pocketing a bunch of money, but it's because we need to, spread the money out amongst everybody. So let's keep it yearly, or, I don't know. Of course, that's the way I want the system to work. I don't know that that's the way the system actually does work, but that's what we all hope. I don't know that it does, but.
Yeah. Or you just tell people you're going to have to lay people off when you really won't, just so they crunch out of fear, and then you make your 100 million and walk away.
I really hope that doesn't happen, but it does.
Yeah, it's messy. And this is why you need unions to argue on behalf of the workers, to say, like, I don't give a fuck if you have to lay people off. I mean, there's layoffs, there's outsourcing. I mean, outsourcing already happens, but yeah, these are the core of this is 12 US employed, US based QA workers. So if they unionize and the cost of their QA services double, I mean, Activision can just be like, okay, why do we even have a domestic? Just send it all somewhere else. Mm-hmm. And the work would probably suffer. And so that's the free market aspect of it. Is you outsource all the QA to another country, it comes back shoddy, bad. They don't identify things or fix them as efficiently. That was one of the major threads that a lot of people reported when we talked specifically with Raven QA, is that we have a really solid team here. It does like above average work. We work really efficiently. We work really well together. There's no reason to break up this team because we were doing good work.
Yeah.
And that's honestly the most humbling, is when people just enjoy the work and they feel satisfied, and then they feel like some outside force busted it up for no reason.
It's so, gosh, that's such a bummer, because like having managed people for years, if there's a team of people that works together well, they work together well, and they're talking about working together well, you don't break them up. You let them continue, and honestly, you support them with more. And that was always my thing when I was at other companies. Speaking to the people above me, was always like, no, we're succeeding, so you give us more resources. But if like the executives, whatever, Activision Blizzard, etc., we're like, no, we need to make an extra 3 cents on the dollar, so lay them off. Like, what a terrible, terrible thing. What a terrible world we live in. If somebody's got a bank account of hundreds of millions of dollars and they're trying to nickel and dime people that are losing their jobs. Like, what a fucking bummer.
Yeah.
Like,
it may have just been logistic and impersonal. At some point, numbers had to square on a ledger. They randomly assigned layoffs, and it landed on this department. And yeah, it sucks.
And that's, I think, probably because of, I mean, I'll even go all the way to the investors, right? They want their investors to see a return on their stock more so than that's like managing expectations with people that own a lot of their stock. Is then you go to them and be like, hey, we're going to have better working conditions, but also you're going to lose some millions of dollars. But again, yeah, fuck it. Who cares? Because if they're
getting acquired right now too, so who gives a fuck?
Well,
they already secured they secured the bag.
Yeah.
They don't have anyone to please anymore.
But I mean, even again, like I honestly, with most of these things, almost everything I think about during the day is both sides. I try to think of both sides because I'm always like, well, I want both perspectives, try to put myself in their shoes.
Yeah.
But if investors are going to lose money on the shares that they make, they're also probably rich. Meaning they're also hedge fund managers, whatever.
Yeah.
And they've got millions, like hundreds of millions of dollars. So yeah, if they lose $10 million on fucking Activision stock because workers have better conditions, those fucking 80-year-old men should be okay too.
Yeah. I guess the idea is if your stock goes down enough, it leaves you open to a hostile takeover where an investor could just buy up all the stock real cheap.
That's true.
So there's something to, there's things to, they can vote out your board once they have like enough stocks.
That's valid. But I mean, like, that's
shitty dance to do. But
that's your job, though.
That's business.
That's the job as an executive is to make sure that doesn't happen. And I think these sorts of stories always come back to the same philosophy for me, which is if they had started from the ground up with these companies and started with, we want to make sure that our workers get fair hours, fair pay, and then they always stuck with it. And they like constantly audited and checked and said, hey, are we doing this? Is this happening for our company? Great, keep doing it. And I don't think most of these companies started that way. I think most of these companies exploded virally, released Call of Duty, Modern Warfare, and was just like, we're all rich, and then they just didn't give a shit. And they were like, now we have to stay on top. How do we stay on top? It doesn't matter. Fuck everyone. That to me is if they had just balanced every time that they had hit some major success and been like, is everybody doing well? Fair hours, fair pay. We're good? Everybody's happy? Or, the people that are happy can be happy? Good. Let's move on. But I don't think they're doing that. So
I don't think so. I've thought a lot about that, mostly from our experiences at the companies that we've worked for. But I've definitely seen a cycle of people who aren't business people and people who don't know or care about fostering business culture suddenly being rocketed to the place of doing that.
Mm-hmm.
They get put in that position for one reason or another, right place, right time kind of thing. Or they had an idea one time that played out really well, or so. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't want to trivialize. I don't want to seem like I'm trivializing specific people, but there's definitely a lot of companies that get a lot of money thrown at them, and no one involved cares about longevity or sustainability.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're talking about like sustainable human workforce. I think people go into the game intentionally not giving a fuck about that. They don't care. Like, what does it matter to them? They're not going to be there in 5 years anyway. They're there to do or crawl out the window and do it somewhere else. So if they're there to get the company acquired, or they're there to like see the company grow to X number of people, none of that involves making sure everyone's satisfied and happy in their work.
It's true.
It's just getting to the finish line so you have that check mark on your resume, and then you'll bail and go do something else, get paid more for that. So yeah, it took me a while to notice that. And this sounds so naive to say it like this, but there's just so many people who don't care. They go into the workforce to do their job, and the rest of it doesn't matter.
I mean, that's like
and it has to be that way, right? You can't make it illegal
to
not give a shit.
No, I mean, you can't. That's true. But I'll tell you, there's a magic in this. There's BioWare magic in this. And the magic is, if you have a happy workforce and a productive workforce, they're going to make amazing shit. And if you keep them happy, they're going to keep making amazing shit. And that's how you make money. Like, to me, that's always been my philosophy. It's like, well, we'll all, succeed together because we're all happy and we're all making, we're doing our best to do our best work. And it's not the company that's fucking us. Maybe our life sucks or whatever. But like, as long as the company's not fucking us, then we're good. Huh. And if you continue that, you will have a sustainable company that continues to grow and grow and grow. And I don't know how today's CEO doesn't see that. It's so to me, what you're going back to your point, it's just greed. That's all it is. If you're going in saying, I only care about what happens to me, I'm going to do what is my check mark, which is I'm the CEO, the interim CEO for 2 years. I got to get our revenue to fucking $50 million. I did it. Great. I got my paycheck. Bye. Then, and it doesn't matter how they did it. Then they fucked a bunch of other people, and now everyone's, then they've ruined the company. They've effectively ruined the company, and they could have continued to employ people for years.
Yeah, but there's so many more companies, Bruce. Who gives a fuck? I'm channeling right now. I appreciate it. Yeah. I struggle to get in that mentality too, and I think you just truly embrace that's business. If the company is fucked because of what you did, then it was a shitty company. You made your money. If the company were better, it would have survived. Whoops. That's not my problem.
I mean,
I'm moving on to the next one.
You're totally right. That's exactly the way they think. It's wrong. And it's also, not only is it greedy, but it's wrong. That's the crazy thing, is that, like, if you talk to successful CEOs that actually have happy employees, there are a few, they'll tell you, yeah, no, we just kept our employees happy. And they continue to do great work. And that's why we are where we are now. And you've made a sustainable company that can employ people for 50 years. So it's really interesting. And obviously, people move on from companies, et cetera. They need to find other better opportunities. But if we're all in it for ourselves, then a bunch of people are getting fucked along the way.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'm always like, what? Why? Not only are you being a shitty person, but you're also you're doing bad work as a manager. So you could get both.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. Anyways,
I agree. I guess what it would really take for me to really get it is to be in that position where have a company maybe employing 40, 50 people, like just to that tip-off point where you can't really control it anymore.
Right. Yeah.
People come up with their own ideas. Let's say that like you've tried to be extra nice. You pay above the median to every role. Everyone has like generous benefits.
Bonuses.
I wanted to say unlimited PTO, but that's not a gift.
That's bullshit is what that is.
Yeah.
Bonuses, etc. Yeah.
Mm-hmm, yeah. Everything nice. A barista on site, whatever. And let's say that after all of that, you still get complaints that you're not paying enough, that there's not enough good shit around, that like the building next door got like a green park for people to sit in. How come we don't have that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see trying so hard for like 3 years to make things good for people, and then they're just like, where'd the good pretzels go? Fuck you. And you're like, do you guys not care that I'm paying you an extra $50,000 a year a person? And they're like, the pretzels though. I don't. I'm not trying to turn this into like rich people are right because people are assholes. But I do. I just it's comedic more than anything, and it doesn't really validate my point. But I do remember when this was way early on when we were at Rooster Teeth in LA, and we would go to the full screen all hands.
Oh yeah,
and that company was like hiring like crazy. There was opportunities everywhere. And there was like a Q&A where the pretty affable and approachable CEO would come out and try to talk with people about the actual company. And most of the questions were about the snacks in the break room.
Mm-hmm.
And you're just like, wow, you guys just really just care about the food, huh? And I was like, wow, they really just do care about the food. And I in that moment, I was kind of in his shoes. And I was like, wow, he's really trying to make this a company that's going to do the right thing. And people just want to know if the expensive Pop-Tarts are coming back. So yeah, people are simple. And I can see how if you're a CEO and you were there when you were like 38 and now you're 58, 20 years on, you've been through 4 other companies like that. At each one, all the doe-eyed people walking around just care about the Pop-Tarts. So if it's your job to manage them as a resource, then that starts to get impersonal.
Well, then,
and you start to like be like, well, we got to lay off 20 people, whatever. I can go bug somebody else about Pop-Tarts. I don't give a fuck. 20 out of like 5,000. All right, they're gone.
So what you're describing is somebody who stops trying.
Yeah. Or they try to do something different.
Sure, but I mean, like they just stop. And in my opinion, then they are not doing their job anymore. Because now they're like, well, we don't like their job. You're the CEO. You benefit a lot. You make a fuck ton of money. You control the company. You get to lots of do really cool shit. You cover up sexual harassment like Bobby Kotick did.
Yeah. It was for the good of the company, Bruce. Could you imagine if those came out like 5 years ago? How many Call of Duties would we have missed? He did the right thing. That was a joke. I shouldn't have said.
Yeah, it was a joke. You get to do all those cool things, but also you're bad at your job if you can't keep your employees happy. So you got to keep your employees happy. Now here's the catch, and this is something that I realized a long time ago. And nobody likes to hear it, but I'm going to say it anyways, which is if you've made $300 million and you got it sitting in your bank account right now and you got a bonus waiting for you, $700 million, no one, this is what they're thinking in their head. No one can tell me I'm bad at my job. And I said this about Donald Trump when he got elected president.
It's the scoreboard.
Yep. It's the scoreboard. And people are always like, how can he think this way? How could he do crazy shit? He thinks he's succeeding. And if you look back to him, he is.
Yeah.
He was president of the United States.
Yeah. It was in the debates actually when Hillary Clinton was pressing him about not paying taxes. And then he was like, no, that makes me smart. And I was like, well, first of all, he just admitted to tax fraud. But second of all, he genuinely believes that's his strength, and he's not wrong is the problem because you get to keep all the money. and he defrauds all of his business partners. Like all this shit's a matter of record. No one gives a fuck. But yeah, by his rules, he's winning because he's got the number.
It's weird because pulling someone out of that mindset is pretty much impossible. Once they are the very top and they're making, again, they're billions of dollars, whatever. They're not going to ever change their mind because you told them 10 employees are unhappy.
Yeah.
They're not.
Like, oh, I didn't think about that. Oh, no. Like, of course they thought about it.
Yeah, no, they don't give a shit. And that to me is what I keep thinking about with this is that they just stopped trying. They're rich now and they have just stopped trying. And that's why I love unions. Because unions are like a reminder that they fucked up, and like articles about people unionizing and like seeing everybody rally around them and stuff like that. It bothers them. It does, and I hope, like much like Scrooge at Christmas time, instead of being like, I'm going to double down on fucking these people, instead of that, they go, wait a minute, hold on, maybe I'm the fuck up.
Oh, that's an interesting point, bro.
I hope that maybe penetrates their black heart one time. One time. I don't know. Maybe
it is. It's like one of the only things that you have to bargain with. Because if they're your employees, and you say do this or you're fired, then you kind of get your way. Or you just hire more people out of whatever pool of people you have applying to your company. But yeah, if an entire department comes and says you have to meet these terms or we're not going to do this, then it's like, yeah. It's funny you say, yeah, when you say it that way, I think it is the affront that like your subjects are rising against you a little bit.
Yeah.
I remember even when even interdepartmentally at some of the places we've worked, I would get pushback. Like I would just be asking questions or like trying to figure out how to work with somebody. And they were like, why are we having this discussion? Like, you're an employee. You should just do this. And be like, oh, hold on a minute.
Yeah.
Are you trying to drop a shoe? Because I could fuck you up, dude.
Yeah.
Like I just tell my team to not do a thing and you have nothing to sell. Yeah. So I don't know. Yeah. Some people like to believe that they've got things in their pocket. And then when it falls out, then it's a reminder and they really don't like that. That's a good point.
So I don't know if you've watched the Kanye documentary on Netflix. It's a 3-parter.
Oh, not yet.
It's great.
Oh, that's got to be something.
It's fantastic. But one of the major things that stuck with me is Kanye meets with Pharrell, and Kanye's playing like one of his like best tracks of all time. But it's early on, and it hasn't really been released. And Pharrell's there, and Pharrell's like, this is fucking genius. Like it's banging. Like I can't believe how good this track is. And he's pointing at Kanye. He's like, you can't get complacent. You can't get complacent. He's like, you're going to be huge. You can't get complacent. He says it 1,000 times. And I was like, oh my God. Like Pharrell, it's clearly, I mean, obviously, like I love Pharrell. I've been a fan of his work for 20 years. But hearing him say that, I was like, oh my gosh. Like he's got it. That's it. He's got it. As soon as you get complacent, what you're describing is complacency of somebody who's like, fuck those people. They're unionizing. Fuck them. Like, I'm going to do whatever I want. And you're talking with somebody who's like, why are we having this conversation? Those are people that are complacent. They don't want to question what's going on. And as soon as you start to get cocky about what you're doing and think like, oh, well, I will never fail. Then you fail. And hearing somebody like Pharrell, who's incredibly successful and has been for a very long time, say that, well, validates kind of what I think about successful people that are also emotionally intelligent. So
interesting.
I don't know that Pharrell's a great guy. I've never met him. I don't know. But from what I saw, super smart.
Yeah. It's kept his name out of headlines. And yeah, been quietly producing amazing music for decades, like you said.
For a long, long time. So I don't know. Anyways. Yeah. It's exciting to see people do this stuff and get the support of a bunch of other people and then hopefully the government and things like that. And then, the Scrooge at the top is like,
yeah. $1 less $1 million this month.
It's like, I don't know what he's going to buy another fucking house with it. So,
yeah.
Well, you can't buy the house.
There's so much money. So much money.
It is. It's weird to think about. It's weird to think about the scale of that money versus what most people make. So
yeah, man, money scale is a hell of a thing. The only time that has hit me a little bit is like in pitching budgets and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Gosh, money can be X dollars can be everything to you, and it can be nothing to somebody else. Especially if they're playing with a budget, which is somebody else's money. Man. Oh, this is all kind of bouncing off a topic that you had brought up before we started recording about motivation.
Yeah.
Just you talking about CEOs and what motivates them and things like that.
Yeah.
I've been having a lot of thoughts about that lately.
I was telling Lawrence before we recorded that Autumn and I have just been talking about motivation and kind of like what motivates you to do whatever, your work, working out, eating right, etc., and like what causes you to do the things that you do. And I don't really have a specific like format or way to talk about it. It's just more of like a question. So I'll kind of give you a specific question so we can go from there. What motivates you to work out? What motivates you to like go out to your garage, right?
I used to. I've been doing less weights these days.
Oh, okay.
I've just been trying to cut body weight. And
Well, it's hard.
Yeah.
What motivates you to do that? Like, is it because you want to lose weight? Is it because you want to feel good? Is it because like all these things? Like, what is it?
It's an intersection of a lot of things. Some of them are healthy and some of them are not.
Sure.
Motivations.
Yeah.
I think right now the biggest one is ego. Ego because it's a goal that I haven't been able to attain yet.
Sure. Yeah.
And I have done a pretty good job in my life of like setting a goal and then being able to work my way towards it through, just work ethic or dedication.
Mm-hmm.
And it's frustrating me that those traits are not working here. So there's a frustration and even I guess shreds of self-loathing in there that I haven't been able to force my will upon my own body in the way that I want.
Yeah.
A healthier motivation is just health. I just want to feel good. It sucks to like move around quickly and then feel the rest of my body sort of slosh after.
Yeah.
It sucks to have little wobbly bits attached to my body. Third is just kind of genuine curiosity. I've never been below a certain like body fat percentage, so I want to see what my body even looks like.
Cool.
If I can get lean enough. I want abs. And then kind of distant fourth, it should be a lot closer to number one, but I am starting to understand the importance of properly attuning with my body. And exercising is a way to do that, of like just moving around, feeling all the muscles, feeling how they move, feeling which ones are tight, which ones are loose, which ones are strong, which ones are weak. I am changing my mentality about workouts now because in the past, exercise was always so combative. I went into it with a combative mentality, like I'm going to destroy this workout. I'm going to like pummel my body.
Interesting.
I'm going to get revenge on my body.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I told you it wasn't very healthy.
That's really interesting.
But I would take my self-loathing and my frustration and my inability to change my body into my workout, and then I would express all my frustrations against my body.
Kind of like not a bad way to channel it, to be honest with you.
It's not, but it doesn't lead to very loving workout sessions.
That's true.
It would lead to me ignoring pain and going through workouts. It would lead to me
that makes sense.
Pushing myself maybe harder than I needed to. Which may have had some results, but not other ones. But what it resulted in, I think, is very directly is I would do certain workouts wrong. I wouldn't focus on form very well, so my musculature wouldn't develop right, and my posture got kind of out of whack because of that. So now when I go to a workout, I treat it more as a time to give my body something that it wants.
Yeah,
and then listen to how it responds.
Sure.
And then be a little kinder to my body. So if it's like, that's not good, don't do so much of that today. Be like, okay, we'll come back to it tomorrow. Instead of being like, fuck you, body. You do what I say. We're doing it. And then I would just be in pain. And then it would make me not want to work out. So
well, the older you get, you can't do that.
Yeah. I'm also pushing up against those limits pretty bad.
Yeah.
Like I have some posture stuff, and I think the motorcycle wreck, it made like this, I don't know what it is. There's this one muscle way down in there, and it really likes locking up really hard. Like if I'm doing some back stuff, there's a particular range of motion that it'll just be like, no, I don't want to do that. And then it'll be like, it'll just tighten way up.
Yeah, there's an injury in there. Probably some scar tissue.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I remember hearing a nurse talk about how a muscle was torn, and I should have asked more about that. But she was just kind of muttering it to another doctor. I was like, well, I mean, at the time I was like, well, it's already been done, so that's just how it is. So yeah, working around that has been interesting. I always used to wonder what a chronic injury would feel like. Turns out it feels like that.
Well, like I said, the older you get, that's just what happens. It's like you'll get an injury and then it's there forever. It's just you don't have a choice.
I've been waiting for that.
You got to work around it.
I'm there. So yeah, that's the full breakdown as I understand. Now there's probably layers to that even I don't understand yet.
Of course, yeah. This is just more of like what you think about.
How about you, Bruce? What do you think about?
So for working out, you want to know? Okay, so my motivation for working out, really interesting here. Hear you talk about combative, because that's not at all the way I've ever been. For me, it is. What was I was saying to Autumn that it was like, and I say this on stream when people have asked too. The motivation to work out consistently, which is like 3 or 4 times a week, is literally only duty. Like it's just I just know I need to do it. I've gotten to a point where like I don't want to work out. Like I'm not being like I can't wait. Like it's never like that, because I usually have 1,000 other things to do. So like whether or not it's work or like something fun or whatever, it's just like fuck. Like I got to do this shit. However, every time I do it, I feel better. So
are you constantly preoccupied while you're working out of all the stuff you need to do after you work out, or can you be?
I usually can be in the moment.
Okay,
I can usually turn it off. If I get preoccupied, I hurt myself.
Yeah.
So I don't do that for the most part. But usually it's just boils down to the fact that I know I need to do it. And the reason I know I need to do it is because of what you talked about earlier, which is being in tune with your body. I know I don't sleep well if I don't work out. I know I feel like shit after I eat something bigger than I should, or like more calories or fatty or whatever. I know I don't like the way I look if I don't work out. There are lots of different things that I take stock of that I know working out will help me feel better. And just generally speaking, mentally, I feel better if I work out, because you do. That's proven. So it really always boils down to just the same old, I got to fucking do it. And
so in that decision-making moment, you're able to think ahead to all the positive benefits and intellectually know it's something that you need to do.
No.
Oh.
It's the opposite.
Oh.
In that moment, I go, I just have to do it.
Huh.
And I just do it. And it's funny because when I say this out loud, now I know why Nike made their slogan, just do it. Now I know why when the fucking Shia LaBeouf videos, when he's shouting, just do it. Because that's what people do that are successful. They just fucking do it. And you know, like, and I'm not saying I'm successful. It's just more of like, this has always been, I'm lucky because it's always been a part of me. When I was a kid, this is the way I was. I would just do shit that needed to be done because I know I needed to do it. And I don't know where that came from. I really, truly don't. My parents are always like, you know, we taught you, but it was built in. Like this self-motivation was built in from the very beginning. So I don't know where it came from. And I've said it over and over, I'm very lucky I have that gene or whatever that is. Because a lot of people don't. So it truly is just that. However, yes, Lawrence, while working out or even usually afterwards, I go, all right, now I can feel better. I'm going to feel better. Like, I'm going to look better. Like, it's going to be good. But getting there is the hard part. And so whenever anybody asks, I say, just fucking do it. Just do it. Don't make excuses to yourself.
That doesn't work.
You're right. You're right.
If you're not the kind of person who has that, I spent a long time thinking it was an issue of willpower. Like you just have to want to do it more. Speaking personally,
but I don't want to.
Yeah, but you have the ability to. True. Other people don't want to, and then they don't. So, like, wanting to do it more is clearly not the issue, because maybe they want to do it really bad. They just haven't found the behavioral pathway to do it.
Correct. Yeah.
So that's really interesting. Bruce, I think you're an exception. I've never heard of anyone say that just wanting to do it or forcing myself to do it works.
I mean, again, this is years of training. I mean, like years and years of training.
So what was the training like, though? Were there times where you didn't have the ability?
Oh, yeah. And like, this is just like, I would take a week or two off. And then by the end of that 2 weeks, like you said, it takes stock of my body and be like, I'm sleeping terribly. I feel like garbage. What changed?
Okay.
And I go, oh, I didn't work out for 2 weeks. There it is. I indulged my sense of not working out, and I need to go back to it.
Okay. So you were able to connect the negative consequences to the inactivity.
Correct.
All right.
Yeah. And also, by the way, like I love drinking. I love eating fatty foods. I love that shit. So if I don't work out, I'm going to be in a total mess. So I know that if I work out, at least I can like cheat a little bit. You know, like I can do some fun stuff. So that's another reason too. But like it truly just boils down to like I have trained myself to do it. And it was the same with schoolwork. When I was in school, I was like, well, I just have to do it, right? Because people told me I had to do it. Believe it or not, you don't. But I thought that I had to, so I did. But maybe, you know what? Maybe I'm the fool, because most people in school would be like, no, fuck it, I'm gonna ditch class. I'm gonna go have fun. Maybe I'm the one that's fucking up. I don't know.
I've wondered about that.
Yeah.
Not specifically you.
Yeah.
But I've had similar thoughts. There's a lot of work and a lot of effort I've put out because it was the thing, like it was the thing to do. And it never occurred to me you could just not do it.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Even if they were things that no one asked me to do and no one appreciated me doing. I guess the real difference is after the fact, do you resent the time you spent doing those things, or do you accept them as part of your decisions?
Well, working out is great because it really only benefits you.
Yeah, there's really no downside unless you injure yourself, I guess.
Sure, but I mean, like, you know, that happens, but it's few and far between. So
I've wondered about this though.
What's that?
If it's an idea of an exchange, so you theoretically exchange the 1 hour that you do for working out for a higher quality of life distributed across the rest of your life, maybe even a longer life. But are all those hours added up going to just be tacked on to the end? Are you just trading like 1 hour of discomfort and exercise for 1 hour of being alive when you're 95? I
mean, most people.
I think there was a happy medium there. Like
there is, yeah. That's what I was going to say. So there's a medium there. It's always about moderation. So like, if you're like, oh, okay, well, Bruce says just do it, so I'm just going to go do it, and I'm going to work out every fucking day. I'm going to do it all the time. Like, no, like there's a balance. Do stuff for yourself too. You know, like have it. Like today, I was like, I should work out. I was like, I'm not going to work out because I don't normally work out on Mondays. So I'm going to fool myself into not working out. So I didn't.
Nice.
And instead I watched Love, Death and Robots on Netflix. And I was like, I had a good time. But what I'm thinking to myself is, fuck, Tuesday, I can't miss it. Now Tuesday, I got to go back. So it's interesting that those exchanges, and there are thousands of studies online that say, if you work out, you will absolutely live a longer and healthier life. It's just, there is no ifs, ands, or buts about that. So I'm looking forward to that. That's what I want. Like, I want to be able to live longer and have, live longer with Autumn and have a great life and stuff like, like that. That'll be great. I don't want to die at 50. But some people do, and that's okay too. Like, I'm all right with that. If they want to go out partying and having fun early, whatever. So what? As long as they're not fucking anybody else, we're good. That's just the way I've decided. That's all.
Yeah, I guess the problem, like, it becomes a societal drag when there is a rash of health issues that could be prevented with, mild exercise and better diets.
That's true.
But yeah, it's interesting. We've only talked about like exercise. I guess exercise is so formative and basic that it's easy to discuss motivation about.
It's an easy one, yeah.
I've been thinking a lot about motivation in terms of work.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm pretty blessed right now. I'm doing all right.
Yeah.
It's a really complicated topic, maybe a little too heavy to bite off with the rest of this podcast.
Yeah,
but just getting older, more work years behind me, still plenty of work years ahead.
Mm-hmm.
But asking questions of, what do I want my working years to mean? What do I want them to collect into? I think it really is just trying to separate out my work and the work output of my life from the value of my life.
Yeah.
Because so long I've just been thinking about for so much of my life, thought about what am I going to do with my life? What am I going to accomplish? What mark am I going to leave? what heights am I going to soar? What grand things am I going to do?
Yeah.
And so much of that is tied to work.
It is.
But now I'm mellowing out quite a bit.
That's great.
Or in my head, I'm sort of letting. I guess the trick is, how do I stay really motivated with my work, but also decouple it from my sense of self? Because those two things are the same thing to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think probably for a lot of people they are. I don't think you're unique in that sense. I think I definitely feel that way about myself. But that said, I think every day I think of those subjects. Every single day I think about, how does work define me, and does it define me? And then I start to think about friends and loved ones and family and things like, well, what am I doing this for? Am I doing this for because I'm trying to leave a legacy? Am I doing this because I really enjoy it? Am I doing this because I want to make sure I can support my family when they get older? Or, who knows? So I think about that stuff a lot, just because I think it's probably healthy to do that, to think about it, not to spiral, but to make sure that there's perspective there versus like what you said is like, well, do I define myself by what my output is, and that's it? Or do I define myself by how many kids I have? Or, I don't know. I think since we're humans, it's an amalgamation of all those things. And so then I guess my question for you is, what motivates you to work? What motivates you to continue doing what you're doing? Is it because you enjoy it? Is it because you are defining yourself with it? I don't know. I'm sure.
For a long time, it was self-discovery. I enjoyed testing myself, of either picking up new tasks, challenging myself with bigger workloads, or just new skills to learn. I think I finally found my limits, or got close enough to them to know what they look like. And I also accomplished a few things to know what it would feel like to accomplish more bigger things like that.
Yeah.
And I guess it's given me a lot to think about. Mostly just realizing that it's kind of a divine thing to be really good at your craft, but also accept that it's only one part of your life.
Sure.
And that it'll just stay there, and it can be what it is. And you do that to pay the bills. I think what makes it really complicated is that I think for you and I feel comfortable saying, we're both very blessed in that we really, really love what we do.
Yes.
So the line between like entertainment and work gets kind of blurry. And then it gets hard to segment it out in your head of what is you choosing to, like, what is you investing time in something that earns revenue and it provides value to the world, and what is you extracting out enjoyment for yourself.
That's right.
And if they're the same thing, then why wouldn't you just do that all the time? But that's probably not a very balanced way to live.
Correct. Yeah.
So I guess finding the balance in all that, and motivation is kind of the determining factor of that's just what makes it so messy.
Well,
this is the absolute best problem to have, by the way.
It is. And
I want to be very clear about that.
And I think most people, if you're listening or watching and you are your own boss, if you're an entrepreneur, if you've got your own business, or who knows, maybe you're just an independent contractor and that is your business, you probably have those struggles. It's different because I've worked in a full-time job for, I guess 15 years, 20 years before I went and had my own business. And so thinking back into those scenarios when I was at a full-time job and like working for a company or whatever, it was way harder for me to figure out what defined me and why I was doing what I was doing.
Oh, really?
Way harder, because
the system's there to tell you.
Well,
and it's going to take advantage of you in doing so, but that's what makes it, air quotes, easy.
To me, it was harder because I was like, I'm just doing this for a bunch of people to get rich. And I was like, I'm really
saw the game early, huh?
I'm really happy. Well, I guess maybe the reason this is because I had like both my parents, they weren't entrepreneurs, but like my mom she had her own thing, and my dad was a pastor. So it's like he knew nothing about the full-time job market and anything like that. And so I just had to come up with these things on my own. And the more that I did it, the more I was like, I'm really proud of what I am outputting. I'm proud of the stuff that I'm creating, and I love getting better as an artist. But what am I? Why am I doing this? Like at the end of the day, am I benefiting from these things? And how am I benefiting? And so it was way easier to ask those questions and have answers to them when I was at a full-time job, and knowing that I wasn't building my own legacy, I was building somebody else's. And again, this is not us talking to you being like, go start your own business. It's not that at all. This is just more of like those are the realizations that I came to. But
yeah, that's interesting. There's a certain cleanliness to a salary job or
there
like
is.
an hourly job.
There totally is.
Because they set the boundaries for you.
That's right.
I guess to me, being self-employed sucks because there is that just do it nag where if I tell myself, okay, I've worked 7 days, I should probably do something else. But then my brain is like, but what if we worked more? And I know that's not good for me. So I guess it does get to that point where I have to intellectually manage myself.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm always second guessing myself. Which when it comes back to motivations and the just do it mentality, that's why drinking is awesome. Because it takes the inhibitions away. You're allowed to just be id, live in the moment, thought to action. Even if that does mean you like headbutt through some drywall or something. Yeah, that's why people love getting drunks, because you can finally be free for a little bit.
Yep. And you forget about your responsibilities and shit, and it's great. But you can't be that way all the time, because that's not what a human does.
Yeah.
We all have our own little responsibilities, and honestly, generally, we have our responsibilities to just people around us, even if it's not family or friends. It's just like the society, unfortunately. So, there's just interesting things to think about when it comes to what motivates you to do what you're doing. I have the counterpoint to being self-employed is I've had a lot of friends that when they get a normal job and it's a 9 to 5 or whatever, and I would ask them, I would be like, aren't you worried about like what you're going to do? Or aren't you worried about like growing? And aren't you? And they'd be like, no, I don't care.
Yeah.
Like this is my job. I go to this retail store, I do the work, and I go home.
Yeah.
That's it. It's great. I don't take it home. And when I was younger, I didn't get it. I was like, well, but what about everything else? And then now the older I've gotten, the more I'm like, that's fucking cool.
Yeah, there's a lot of wisdom in that.
Yeah, just do whatever you want. Like once you go home, these people can have their own hobbies. They don't have to be working constantly or whatever. So there's a total freedom to that if they want it. If you're not motivated to whatever, get bigger, get more successful. It doesn't. I'm like I got to put those in quotes because success is completely different for everybody.
I'm really glad you said that.
Yeah, because it totally is. And if somebody wants to work at a retail store for 5 days a week, come home and chill, that's great. If that to them is what they wanted, then awesome. And it took me a long time to get there and be like, I get it. I get it. So. Yeah,
I think for me it was having something to prove. But to no one, to myself. And I don't know where that came from, which means maybe it is to somebody. I don't know, a parent that said something at some point and just lodged in my brain.
Sure.
But yeah, once I realized that it's just a ghost in my brain that's asking me what I can do and inviting me to prove myself every given day, that as long as I just ignore it or figure out a way to make it quieter, then I can live in the moment and sort of relax. But then, God, what if you go too far that direction? You just slip away.
That's right.
If you just slip into the stream, Bruce, and you never come back, you're just always in the moment, floating from place to place. I guess that doesn't sound so bad.
But the thing is, it's just like you can't do that forever either.
No, I guess you're right.
There's always a balance. There's always a balance to all this, and it's really hard because striking that balance as a human is very, very hard, and that truly is what your day-to-day struggle is, being a human. I always see people asking questions about like, how do you do this? And I'll read a lot of things on Reddit about threads about like, I don't understand. Like I'm 25, I'm working a normal job. Like, is this all there is? And I'm always like, well, no.
That's whatever you make from here.
Yeah. But
this is where the game plan ends.
Yeah.
Kind of.
But then now the rest of it's up to you. and it's hard.
Trying to find meaning.
Yeah.
I remember being 25, having my job, coming home to my empty studio apartment. I got money in the bank. I got video games on the shelf. And that's it. Then that's when, you got to go out and live life and figure out what it means to you. I guess that's what it's really just putting down the societal scorecard, the fame, the money, whatever. That can mean success, provided that you just absorb somebody else's definition of success, and then who's the real loser there? So if you define it for yourself and then attain it, which for me is going to be fucking slamming some drinks on June 12th.
Oh yeah,
I wanted to plug it.
So we're going to be watching the Xbox showcase on June 12th, the PC Gamer Show, and the Future Game Show.
I think so. Those are the ones on the 12th.
I think those are the 3 on the 12th.
And then I'm going to try to sneak in some E3 Classic in the middle.
Oh, nice.
I think we can pad it out between the conferences.
So Lawrence and I will be drinking starting at, I think it's like 10 a.m. Right?
Oh, hell yeah.
I think that Xbox thing starts, it's a Sunday. But it starts early in the morning. But yeah, Lawrence and I will be doing that. Good,
hell yeah.
Good plug.
Thanks.
Yeah, good way to wrap it up.
Yeah, I guess we'll be streaming on each of our Twitch channels. Yeah, it'll be an Inside Games premiere event.
Yeah,
the continuation of Drunk E3. Although I don't know if we're gonna do rules this year. Rules are dirty because it's like all your shots are compressed in 1 hour, and then you have to go like 4 hours to the next conference, which is just enough time to almost sober up. So you're like, you got a headache and your eyes are bloodshot, and you're starting to climb out of it, and your body's like, oh, thank God. And then you take more. Oh God, the first shot after like 5 hours
it's tough. It's really tough.
Your body doesn't want it, man.
There is that legendary E3.
Oh, God. It was one of the first ones.
I think it was like 2016.
It must have been.
I think it was 2016. Where there's a Funhouse E3 and I remember finishing a beer at like 9:30 in the morning and being like, oh no. And I was like dry heaving in the parking lot at 2, and like I was wrecked. And that was like, I don't know that I ever want to do that again. It was awesome.
Yeah, it was a fun one-time thing, and I cherish the memories.
Right.
But I do think it established an expectation that was not fun to try to live up to.
Well, you wrestled Jack at the end of that one, I think.
Yeah, that was fun. I always want to wrestle people. Like I'm a wrestler, I guess. And I'm glad he was down.
It was an epic wrestling match. It was. I was there. I watched. Yeah, it was great.
I'm glad Jack was a sport about it. He came in sober too. I think, right?
No, he was drunk too.
Okay.
Anybody that showed up to that got wasted.
That's true.
It was great. But also, I don't know that I want to do that again.
Yeah, I don't know. We're not going to be wrestling. More civilized drinks this time, but just enough to get a little loose and start screaming at the monitor.
Absolutely.
For not announcing. Do you think they're going to show new Sonic? They have to, right?
At Xbox?
Future game show, maybe.
No way. If there's new Sonic, they'll show it at Xbox. But I would be surprised if they showed new Sonic at Xbox.
Sonic Frontiers, man.
We're gonna get 25 minutes of Starfield. I can tell you that.
I guess that's cool.
Yeah,
I can go with that.
Yeah. It might be too much.
Maybe a new Battletoad. Battletoads 2? Battletoads?
Maybe.
Rude Toad Battletoads? I can't wait. They're back again.
Great. Sunday, June 12th. June 12th, all day. We'll be streaming on. I was trying to think of a way to stream on Inside Games YouTube, but I don't think we can because we're partners. Unfortunately, we are exclusive to Twitch.
Yeah.
So
for now. I guess there was some rumors that might. Well, I don't know about the partnership clause, but
no, yeah, you're right about that. Anyways,
but yeah, no.
Cool. Well, thank you for watching the podcast.
Yeah, E3
or listening. Yeah. Well, that's coming up when this airs. It'll probably be about 2 weeks away. I want to say. So
here come the video games. Get ready. We had a little break, but they're back. Inside Games. The games are back.
See you later.
See ya.